Welcome to Intuition and Orgasms, a daring new podcast with Jen Hamilton and Greg Riley, where we dive deep into the intertwined worlds of spirituality, relationships, and self-discovery. We're here to shed light on the often untouched topics that everybody needs to wake up to. Expect raw, unfiltered conversations as we tackle subjects like emotional intelligence, trauma healing, conscious relationships, and yes, better orgasms. We combine our unique experiences and skills, Greg with his intuitive insights and therapeutic expertise, and Jen with her background in clinical hypnotherapy, coaching, tantra, and esoteric psychology. Together, we aim to help you upskill your life, understand your true self, and build meaningful connections. Each episode will explore the tools and practices that foster personal growth and transformation. From unpacking childhood imprints and societal conditioning to discussing the impact of spirituality and energy on relationships, we leave no stone unturned. Plus, we'll share our personal stories of overcoming adversity, leaning into our shadows, and finding profound joy and connection on the other side. Join us on this journey to know yourself, communicate better, and ultimately, fuck better.
Listeners, welcome to another episode of Intuitions and Orgasms. My co-host, Jen Hamilton, how are you?
I'm amazing as always. How are you, Greg?
Oh, did we get some comments about Brando?
Oh,
Holy crap.
What a legend of a man, though. Like, we're doing out there doing God's work and, like, triggering the fuck out of both men and women because he speaks the truth, because he knows women, and because he gets paid really fucking good money for what he does.
Yeah, and the same thing is just like, it's common sense. This is not rocket science. We're not talking things that, some secret handshake or, some mystical thing that you have to do. You basically come down to what he said. It was connection, which is studying, listening, communication, presence, and self-awareness.
Yeah, like we're
ain't hard, people.
Seen and heard. Like, it's not just me banging on about this. Is not my trauma wounds that I'm bringing forward on this podcast. This is like all women that are having the same experience across the board, Yeah.
Let's trigger some more buttons as we, come to the end of the year. We've got 2 podcasts left for the year. We got this one where we're going to talk about affairs.
Yes.
And I've got a very different because I suppose, luckily, going through something like the Gottman method has a very, very different take on affairs because people very much want to blame the person who has had the affair. But quite often, that relationship's well and truly over before the affairs even happen. And sometimes, I know this is, some people kind of may be a bit different from this, but if the people are up for it, the affair can be the best thing that's ever happened to your relationship if you want to actually, move forward and take accountability for your role in that affair, even if you were the person who was cheated on, that you can come back from an affair. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it takes courage and guts. But let's stick to the first part. Why do affairs happen, Jen?
Oh my gosh. There's so many reasons. Like, there's so many things that happen in the space of relationships. And as we we could have just called the podcast, instead of Intuition and Orgasms, we could have called it just fucking Communicate in Your Relationship for God's sakes. Everything comes down to communication. Talk about your trauma, talk about your shadows, talk about your desires, talk about your kinks, talk about your, the pleasure that turns you on, talk about what you like, talk about what you don't like, talk about your day, talk about your fucking feelings, right? Talk about things like wide open communication, but also, communication with tact. Like, it's not just spitting fire at someone going, you make me feel this way and therefore I'm going to go and do this, or you did this, you did that. There's so many elements to this. There's so much around radical self-responsibility of who you are in a relationship and how you show up in that dynamic, what you're bringing forward. And I always say, there is essentially, 3 parties of a relationship. There's a man, there's a woman, or whatever gender you're choosing to be. And there's the relationship as an entity itself, which you have to pour into. Not both parties can't be pouring into the relationship to the same degree, to the same capacity at the same time. that's when you can take from the relationship when you're like, hey, I'm really struggling right now. I need you to give me back more than what I can give into it right now. But I also know that the tables are going to turn, and at some point you're going to be there for me because, we have a code of honor in the space of our relationship that says this is how we roll, So it always comes down to communication. That's the three thing. If there's a history of cheating as well, like they do say once a cheater, always a cheater. What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree that that's a repeated pattern for someone?
It can be. So if the person who cheats understands their role in it and the reasons why they cheated and take full accountability and responsibility with it, and do the work to become a different person, there's no reason they don't have to cheat anymore, right? Because they've dealt with the reasons why they were doing it. And quite often, what I see in relationships that why people cheat is that they've put too much pressure on the other person to fill a void inside themselves or the relationship to fix something. When they get together. It's like, oh, if this person will love me enough, then or the relationship will fix how I feel about myself. And both you and I, and we'll harp on about this over the course of our podcast, you're not in a relationship with another person. Right? The relationship sits within your mind and yourself. You are not in love with another person. That person allows you to experience your capacity for love and how you love yourself and the person you become. And you're in love with your version of yourself as a being, right? And people have relationships so wrong because they think it's about the other person.
Always, yeah.
And, so when some life gets a bit tough or a bit hard and we don't deal with our shit and then we start projecting the other person, and like you said, Jen, they're not doing this or they're not giving me this or they're doing this wrong or they're doing that wrong. And what will happen is you'll naturally, as a human being, will try and seek out some kind of connection somewhere because we are connecting beings. So like I said, communication and connection, people are going to do this. You can only have a disconnection for so long in your life before you go and seek it somewhere else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, in the, I guess the art of being raw and open and vulnerable in this space, I mean, let's share our personal experiences. Have you been part of an affair? Like, have you ever been cheated on? Have you cheated? Like, where do you stand in all of this in relationships?
It's a funny thing because I don't. I see again different take on it again, right? I had an ex-partner who people would technically say it was cheating. From where I sit on it, the relationship was well and truly done. It was over. Yeah. It was already well and truly gone by that stage. And the connection had broken down and all that kind of stuff, right? So for me, it was just an inevitable kind of part of the ending of a relationship. People will label as, because I think people are quick to judge on the cheater and the cheatee, and this, they band around the person who was cheated on, and they victimize and ridicule the person who did cheat, right? But again, everything is perspective. And for me, it's like, well, we were together when we shouldn't have been. So in that space, and I was withholding affection, so I've got no one else to blame but myself.
Yeah.
So from my perspective, it's like it's a very grey area, right? Because again, if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm quite grateful that it sort of happened, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Am I bitter or angry or something like that? At the time, it was shock. But then you have to have, well, this was really a result of my behaviour.
What role did you play in it exactly?
Because I withheld what she needed. So she had no other choice but to, seek a connection somewhere else. And it was just that we were too, like I said before, too gutless to have a conversation about this. Thing was over 6 months ago. Right? So it's a hard thing to sort of say and kind of thing when it's not black and white.
No, it's not. And there's so many elements to it. So many elements to it. There's so many different things. And like, there is responsibility that all parties involved have to take, because then like you've then got a third person that's in the dynamic, which is the person that they cheat with. And do they know the wife? Like, do they know the husband? Do they are they actively participating in the pursuit of the married person for
Yeah.
their own thing, which we've discussed on previous episodes before? It's
Yeah.
like, why do women go, particularly for married men, for example,
Yeah.
because the thrill of the chase,
Yeah.
you know? My first proper relationship, I was 14, he was 17.
Oh,
It
you rebel.
was right before, like, well, proper boyfriend, girlfriend, and, like, it was cool because he had a car and he could buy cigarettes, and I
Oh,
was
wow.
cool because he had a car, yeah. So I was the cool one. I used to sneak out to parties. I used to, like, my poor parents, the grief I put my parents through with that relationship. First of all, they were like, "Why the hell are you 14 dating a 17-year-old?" And then they'd say, "No, you can't go to this party." So I'd sneak out the back window. I
Yeah.
ripped a massive hole in my fly screen to go sneak out at parties, and then they got a call from someone at a party saying, "You need to come get your daughter." Like, I was a wild
Yeah.
child, right?
Yeah.
But I had this boyfriend, and I thought, it was my first sweetheart. Do you know what I mean? I thought we were unbreakable. And then, yeah, he ended up, like, we hadn't slept together at all. And he had then went and gone and slept with one of my close friends from school.
Yeah.
Um, and I found out through another friend of ours that had known about it, and I was in such denial. And it was Christmas Eve, I found out. And
Oh,
then, like, I had trauma around Christmas Eve every year. It's still to this day, I'm like, Christmas time, and I don't, it's, different reasons and different levels of stress around Christmas time now. But yeah, my first relationship was being set up for that, and then my second relationship we were together like 5 or 6 years, I think. Yeah, from the age of 16 to 21. First proper boyfriend, we lived together,
yeah.
and I was away visiting friends in Townsville, and then I had some other friends tell me that, while you're away, he was with a girl at his house, because that was from the neighbors
Yeah.
saying he was with another girl, and I was just, deny from him. I was like, "You got it all wrong. You were seeing things." And then it came out. I'm like, "Okay, all right, what's going on here?" And it wasn't like I was, so young at that point, and I was almost like, definitely with him, I was almost mothering him
Yeah.
because he was a freaking man child. Like, he did not have it. He was a big pot smoker. Didn't work when I first met him. Didn't drive, like, didn't finish school, like, nothing. And I helped him get his life on track, but I mothered him along the way because I thought I could change him.
Yeah.
Because I thought, like, I could make him a better person, and, help. I was like Bob the Builder for the majority of
No.
my life. Like, he
What
let
What do you say to a female that has that comment? I can change them and I can make them a better person to manipulate or mold them to what I want.
that was every relationship pretty much up until a few years ago for me. It was a very unconscious thing. It was like, because, and it's really interesting. I had a conversation with my mum yesterday about the dynamics that I grew up with and witnessed in my own family, and what my mum and dad's marriage was like, and the role that my mum played, and then the role that my dad played, and how my mum was the stronger figure,
Yeah.
she was the masculine of the relationship and
Yeah.
of the household. And so the way I witnessed her wearing the pants and doing everything, I just assumed that that's what happened because that's what
Mhm.
was modeled to me growing up. My dad was a beautiful, kind man, but, like, he very much, like, he took the feminine role. Like, he was basically, like, he worked around the house, and he could sew things and cook and, like, do all the things that, like, generally mums do,
Mm.
kind of role reversal. But I didn't grow up with that really strong masculine figure that girls need growing up,
Yeah.
and so when it came time to go into relationships, and I had modeled everything that my mother was doing, I was like, "Oh, cool. So you pick men that are, you know, weaker than you, essentially,
Yeah.
and then you do all of the things because you're stronger than them." And then, like, we held a belief, like, we're strong Italian women, that's what we do. And so it went really deep, and it wasn't, again, until I had my head in a bucket in an Aya ceremony. A lot of this stuff was coming up, and there was a lot of
Yeah.
forgiveness that had to happen towards myself, towards my mother, towards my father, towards the expectations I'd put on both of them. And then I noticed my relationship pattern. Oh, okay, cool. I've always gone for men that I always fell for their potential. And it was always because I could never just accept them for who they were, because I was always thinking I could do better so they could do better. or that it's all growth mindset. And if I'm growing, you should be growing with me kind of thing. And again, like these things become they're very subconscious. They're not at the surface. You don't go on to swipe onto Bumble and Hinge and those apps and be like, okay, who's the most damaged here and what is it that I can do to fix you?
Mm.
You naturally gravitate energetically towards people that you feel a connection with. And who do we feel connected to? Well, the ones that bred us, that showed us, modeled to us what that behavior was. So if the behavior in the household was modeled that, men are the weaker species, great, that's what you go for. And then you help them get their life on track because then you feel validated for it.
But it's also very, very unattractive too. So
Massively.
that in a way, then you kind of go, well, I've got no sexual attraction with this guy. Yeah, it's a safe bet for you, and this is what I've grown up with. But
yeah,
have no connection sexually with him.
Yeah, I noticed myself, like even like I had a lover a few years ago, and like we were never, an official item or anything like that. But I always notice I'm like, if he just and his potential is like that's how I would think. I'm like, if he just did this, if he just did that. And it was because I genuinely wanted the best for him. I could see where his blind spots were, and I could be like, hey, if you did this, maybe you would have a different experience here. But at the end of the day, it was never up to me to control that. And I'm so aware of that now. And I was, in my previous relationship, like stepping into my last relationship, which was, 3 years, there was nothing that I wanted to change about that man or, wanted him to do to become better or anything. I was so aware of it because I'd spent so long going, oh, I get it now. Why am I attracting, emotionally unavailable men or, men that just don't have drive or motivation or determination? I'm like,
there's another, similar, part to it as well too. And I don't know if it sort of reflects back to you or because I see this with other clients, is that women who chase that also chase because they don't have the confidence to go after a high value man because it's, they're afraid that they may lose or leave them. They don't have the confidence that
yes,
okay.
It's a reflection of self-worth in there. Absolutely. Because there is like a little, I guess it's like a little dopamine hit that you get, a little endorphin rush when you realize, like, say, for example, like the mum says to you, oh, wow, he's such a different man when he's with you. Or the friends are like, wow, I can tell that he really likes you because he's changed for the better. Like that is like, oh, yeah, toot my horn. Like I'm good at this game. Because what is it? External fucking validation. It's praise. And it's not coming from anything from the inside or coming from a place of, I see you and I love you for who you are. It's going, what is it that I can do with this? What is the potential? And also holding this belief that, all men are shit. Or, you know what I mean? Like when you surround, I saw this, I'm not even going to mention her name. I wouldn't even call her an influencer. She's well known on TikTok.
Yeah.
She went on TikTok and did a story the other day, and she literally had a chart of photos and their names of men that she wanted to bitch and whinge about that she had on rotation. And then she's like, join me over on my TikTok channel. I go 45 minutes of telling you why men fucking suck. And I was like, Jesus, take the wheel. Like, what is going on in society that we have got to this point? And anyone coming at her, trying to defend men or men trying to defend themselves, oh no, shreds torn off them.
Yeah.
It's like, how wounded do you have to be? But this is the thing. We're all
It's like there's an author down here in Melbourne, feminist. She's actually written quite a few books. And same thing, complete, man hater. And she writes quite a lot of articles. Use even for the age she might write more.
I think I know who you're talking
about. She's got a son. She had she's got a son now, which is sort of karma, I think, to see how that is. But I can't remember her name, but she's same thing. You can't do anything you say about anything men being good, she'll just tear strips off you. She is a man hater.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, if you've got a belief about something, you're constantly finding proof in order to sustain that belief. So if you think all men are shit, you're going to find reasons to sustain your belief why all men are shit. What are you going to do? Attract things that you believe is true. Like, Manifestation 101, what you believe is what you see.
But also, if this is your angle, this is your agenda, and this is your income, and this is how you make a living, you can't let go of that, right? Because as soon as you actually say, "Oh, maybe I was wrong," then you sort of ball and chain to the vitriol you're producing. But so what are sort of, we can go through this thing. What are sort of some of the causes of affairs, and what are some of the telltale signs of your partners having an affair, apart from being secretive with the phone and changing passwords and changing behavior?
Change of behavior would be a huge one. Let's. What was the first question? What are
What's some of
the
the
reasons
leading causes why people tend to have
leading?
affairs?
I think there's a lot that comes down to the thrill of the chase, because if there's no excitement or something new or shifting the dynamic in the space of pleasure in the marriage. Say you've been married for 20 years, you've known each other for 30 years, whatever that is. Things do get a little bit stale. Like, you've got to be able to work on the relationship. And, if the secretary at work is walking past and, she's looking hot, she's in a little skirt or something like that. And he's like, oh, I could go a piece of that. And then she's like, oh my gosh, attention, amazing. I'm stereotyping here with which way it's going. Like, cool, come at me. But it's the thrill of the chase then. He's feeling as though like his animalistic instincts actually get put to use now. They did at the start of the relationship when he was chased with the wife, but he doesn't need to chase anything anymore. And men naturally love the chase. And we love being chased by the
Well, I
right man.
do. I speak to a lot of guys, and from their perspective, again, we're just giving evidence here of who we sort of speak to. Appreciation, that's a big one for men. Intimacy, like men naturally have the sex drive lasts longer. It doesn't usually have a higher one, but women start to fall off when menopause hits. Men still go at still got a high sex drive at 60.
Yes.
So it's appreciation, intimacy, and connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or feeling of worth, like their feeling of that appreciation and worth, that they're actually not more than just a wallet or more than just whatever. And a lot of the guys feel like, I just don't feel like I'm appreciated anymore. Like, I'm doing this stuff, I come home and I just get bitching and moaning about what I'm not doing. And again, at the base of all this stuff, like you said, it comes back to basic 101. We lack the ability to communicate effectively because we're not taught. We are, most people are winging it through relationships, completely winging it. No one is taught how to communicate. No one is talked about, how the subconscious mind affects their relationship, their identity, and what they bring into it. No one's dealt with any of their trauma. They've just come into a relationship. This will fix me. This makes me feel happy. 7 years later, it's a bit boring now. We'll go and find something else. Nobody wants to work at shit anymore. That everything's disposable. All right, it's just move on to the next one. I can go and recreate it. But there's some, I think you got 56% of marriages end in divorce. I think of the ones that stay together, 80% of those may be unhappy.
Absolutely agree with you.
Or they're for the wrong reasons, especially over 10 years plus.
Yes, they're for the kids. Let's, make sure the kids get through school. Let's make sure the kids don't end up with their own trauma because of it. Like all of the shitty excuses,
But it all comes down to one thing, is that people lack the ability to have tough conversations because we're afraid to sit there and go, I'm not happy. Because it comes into, and one of my mentors taught me this, and he said, Greg, as soon as you use the word you, conversation over.
Yeah.
You don't do this and you're not doing this and you don't make it. It's like, because the other person, as soon as you project like that, the other person is going, right, I'm being attacked. I'm going to get defensive and shut down and try and respond to that, right? They've stopped listening. They're not even confused. They're thinking right now, how do I respond to this to get,
They're going, what do I need to do to defend myself in this? Yeah.
And people, and because some of the bullshit counseling relationship crap out there where I don't know who taught this or who said this, but when you can sit in front of a counselor and say, when you say this and you do this, you make me feel this. And it's like, that's the worst relationship advice you can ever have. Because that's one, lack of accountability, lack of ownership, and you're projecting and you're judging right? You're never going to get anywhere with that shit, right? Whoever's teaching you that stuff, you're seeing a counselor or therapist, relationship counselor today, and they're doing that for you. Get up, and pay the bill, walk out the door, and don't come back.
Won't even pay the bill. That's a waste of a
Right? So communication is really listening. It's about presence. It's about self-awareness. And we lack any ability to have a conversation, which is fucking difficult and fucking hard because we won't take accountability for our own roles in stuff. So instead of doing that, like you said, we go and find fulfillment somewhere else because a lot of affairs, like, again, it's excitement. It's, a lot of affairs aren't even about love.
No, not at all. Not at all. Or there is an addiction going on as well.
Yeah.
If there's a sex addiction, if there's an addiction to, again, addiction is not being able to deal with your feelings. Addiction is a response to it. Addiction is filling a hole of something that you don't want to look at. So it's like, let me feel a certain way, whether it's drugs, whether it's alcohol, whether it's shopping, whether it's sex. You're chasing a feeling to escape another feeling. Go back to the root cause of that. What is it that you're not looking at? What is it that you're choosing not to feel? What have you made so wrong within yourself? What shame are you holding? What guilt are you holding? What's going on under there that you're trying everything to scramble for to get away from that feeling? Yeah.
And like I said before, it's like we're very easy to judge and project on the person who's the doer. But sometimes, like, I kind of see it like, right, here's your circuit breaker. This has happened, right? Because sometimes it's like, right, you had an affair, relationship's over, move on, right? If you got kids, it's a little bit different. So if relationships do end because someone's had an affair, it can get really, really dirty. And all I say to people in that situation, you've got kids, be an adult. They don't want their childhood ruined by your fucked upness.
Yeah.
You know?
That's the thing. Like, if they can get in there and like, both parties have to be willing to do the work. Both parties have to take radical self-responsibility and accountability. Both parties have to decide, okay, this has happened. Let's put a line in the sand from here and decide from this day forward what this looks like, not going back and digging up the past. What are the sustainable steps to move us towards who we want to be and where we want to be in life? So it's going to take two to tango. It's going to take two to bring forward these conversations and do the work. One person can't sustain carrying the other one through that.
And there's rules of engagement as well too, right? So one of the things they taught us was, if an affair's happened, there's no details. You don't need to know, was it in the bed, was it in the car, was it in the couch, was it in all that kind of stuff, right? Because that in itself, I know you want to know, I know. But,
I want to know. I would be like, did she shave? Like, I would want to know, like,
because
I'd be like, tell me.
Because there's the other thing is that, was she better than me? Was he better than me? Right? And because there is no good ending in that conversation. There is none.
No, because remember on Friends when, like, they had that big, it was the girl from the copy shop.
Yeah.
Was she good? She was different. It's like, no, you don't say she was different, like good different. Like, no, you say it was terrible. It was just like this whole, any Friends listeners out there, Friends.
Yeah, and you're right, is that the moment you decide to move forward is the day you stop bringing it up. From this day forward, you are not to use this as ammunition in a fight or a disagreement, because that's, his, and that takes courage, that takes guts. But yes, you can heal from a relationship, an affair, even though trust, like, huge amount of trust has been broken.
Yeah.
But again, you got to look at the bigger picture, not the one isolated incident, as to what's been broken before then, because you probably found there was no connection before that anyway for someone to go and do something like that. So it is a fine way to move forward, but you can actually do it if the two people are committed to owning their parts in it Like you can absolutely, it can be the phoenix that rises from a pretty shitty relationship to something pretty special afterwards, right?
What would
Um,
you say to someone listening that's been cheated on and they want to stay together and they genuinely want to both do the work? How, like the person that has been cheated on, how do they get past that? Like, how do they go, I'm not going
yeah,
to be suspicious every time? Like, what would you say to someone? Because, like, in my,
yeah.
I haven't been cheated on since my early 20s. There was a third one. I think I just picked all the wrong men. I mean, the story of my life on this podcast. It's all right. I got a good one now. So we're good.
Um,
But like, what would you say to someone that's sort of in this position? They're like, I want to, Greg, but I'm like hyper aware of when they're
mm,
late or they don't talk to me, like they don't call when they say they're going to call. Like, how do I know they're not out there doing things that they used to?
so one is actually really saying it, meaning it, because some people say they want to do it, but they just want to sit into a counsellor's office and just blame the other person. They say they want to actually do that, but then they sit in front of someone and all they want to do is be right about that they got cheated on. Like there's two lots of people. There's ones that say they want to do it, but really it's about I'm right and I was the one that was cheated on. You're a piece of shit. Or I really want to work on it. Let's look at what happened, not what happened. So no details. We know it happened. We don't need to know how many times, whether it was once, twice, 15, 20, it's happened. Right? Because you're just going to go through your head for the rest of the time about how many times was she better, he better, it better, what was different about them. And it's going to traumatize you. And comparison is never, ever good, right? So the thing is you deal with it in one session and go, right, this is what happened. Take accountability, take responsibility, but what led up to it? What were the things that led up to the fact that you guys, and sometimes, you've got somebody who's completely blindsided who thinks the whole thing's, again, they're in a great relationship and all of a sudden they've been blindsided by the fact, shit, my partner's had an affair on me. There's always sort of, strange circumstances to certain things. But the majority of cases, that's not the case. Usually it's complete breakdown in communication that they're already going through. The behaviours are changed. They don't like each other. They've been sleeping in separate beds anyway. The intimacy's dropped off by a mile. So they've gone from having sex a lot to having pretty much none at all. And when they do have sex, it's the pity sex, like we we're talking about beforehand, where she's just going, get it done. So get off me and have a shower.
Get in, get out, get out. Yeah.
Get out, right. And then he's feeling that, he's seeing that, because men crave intimacy. Like, we say we don't, but we do, right? So, and women do as well. So, because like even today, like it's probably 50-50 women having affairs on, men and women, but we talked about before. But really it's about, okay, you have to be, here's what happened. Here's the reasons why it happened, what led up to it. This is what was really going on, and own our part in that. And be really radically honest about what led up to it, including the part that, okay, someone's broken trust, but quite often before that, trust has already been broken.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's not the affair that breaks the trust. It's for someone to actually go and have an affair, there's a major disconnection before that anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that space, right?
Going on.
And so if you really want to do it, you've got to get away from bad guy, good guy, bad girl, good girl, right? You've got to get away from the, it's got to be a unified front. If like some people want to keep it under covers and keep it secret and stuff like that, completely okay. If others do know about it and found out about it, then both partners front that up and go, right, no, we were both to blame for this. There's none of this playing, sides of against, oh, he's an asshole, she's a bitch kind of stuff, right? It's a combined front. No, we're together. We're working on this. It's a 50-50 thing here, right? Otherwise, you're still going to deal with the barbecues at Christmas about, look, I had an affair with his wife. What a prick.
Not Dave-o. Bloody Dave-o's at it again. Okay, so for the sake of going 50-50, where do you sit at eye for an eye? So one person does it, it gives the other person the right, and then they call it even.
Never ends
wrongs
well.
don't make a right. I'm not
Never ends well.
like two wrongs don't make a right, but I mean, do you think that would relieve the pressure brewing from like that's tipped the scales.
Never. If you're doing it for revenge, you're not in that want to make it better.
No, revenge. I don't, trust me, I don't condone revenge affairs. Like, let it be known. Let it be known.
But
But I can imagine like that would alleviate the distrust. It's like, okay, well, we're both back at zero now. We're both back on even playing field.
I've never really seen that work too well, where someone's found out about an affair and then gone, by the way, you get a free hit with, some guy at the pub one night.
Ryan Gosling.
Ryan's okay. Ryan's the lead pass, don't worry. That never, again, because if you want to build something and your first act is about evening up the scores, it's not what the relationship's about. It's not where you're heading, right? Right. If that's what you're doing as well too, about getting one back on your partner, you're in the wrong place.
Yeah, totally.
So some relationships are meant to end, right? And the affair is just the way that it's meant to end. It's the catalyst, right? Someone had to end it. Someone's going to be the bad guy because you've been together way too long. This was over 12 months ago. You have no communication. You're not working on anything. You're wasting everyone's time. Everyone's fucking unhappy.
The thing is, like, the thing about an affair is, and like what you're referencing to earlier with your experience, sometimes it's that circuit breaker or like rip the Band-Aid off. You can't have the conversation to be like, actually, I'm not in love with you anymore and we need to split assets and go our separate ways. I'm really sorry. It's like, oh, I've had an affair. Okay, cool. We're instantly over now. We don't have to go this backwards and forwards. Like, can we make it work? Like, but what have we got together? And like all of the things. It's like, no, what's a surefire way to get this person out of my life? Okay, I'll cheat on them. Like,
yeah.
Like it's
subconsciously and spiritually, right? And this is the thing is spiritually, your higher self, it's going, get me the fuck out.
Yeah.
Right? Or get us out of this situation. So sometimes what happens from a spiritual perspective, this is like you and I get this, from a spiritual perspective is, let's just say hypothetical, right? You and I in a relationship. I won't say the words. I'm gutless. I won't man up and actually have a conversation with you. So your higher self will go, Greg, we're going to get Jen to go have an affair because you're fucking useless.
Yeah.
Wake up call, right? Yeah. So it's all orchestrated in a certain field that then you go and, have an affair because I don't have the guts and courage to actually do that, right? So there's
the conversation. Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And again, like everyone listening, like we are stereotyping around genders here, like we obviously, we stereotype around, monogamous relationships. Like there's a whole other avenue when people go, well, let's just have a polyamorous relationship after 16 years of marriage because we don't want to deal with that trauma.
I'm again, I've seen the spiritual industry at its best and at its worst. Polyamory in the spiritual industry is full of shit. It looks seriously these things about I can have it because we are human beings built on connection and having. Just look at Aubrey Marcus; he's failed as well too. It fell on a complete steaming pile of shit. Because everyone was following that when he was doing it. This is great because we're all spiritual and go to Burning Man and shit, right? It all failed.
Yeah.
Right. And the same thing is that having multiple partners, 99% of the time.
Yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. I've not dabbled in the space of relating in that. I know people that have, and I was very close with people that have, and I know people that go to temple nights. I know swingers, like I know all sorts of people, and like you do whatever floats your boat. But get real clear on what the trauma is underneath all of the reasons why you're doing things outside of like I understand like 16, 20 years of marriage and you're like, okay, we've been doing the same thing for a long time. Or like you marry young and you don't know yourself. Or maybe it was an arranged marriage. Maybe you come from a cultural background where it was an arranged marriage. Or you guys have just completely outgrown each other. It's like, we love each other. We want to stay together. But like, let's just go and like fish in other ponds for a bit.
Yeah.
And it really is, so like 99% of the time it is a recipe for disaster. In saying that though, nothing's actually wrong. If that's what you want to go and experience, go and play. If if you want, deep and lasting intimate connection with a loved one and you want to experience divine union with two people, when we start to look at the esoteric teachings of Tantra, which has been around for a very fucking long time, it's yin and yang, masculine, feminine, Shiva, Shakti, right? So there's a statue over in India of Shiva and Shakti that are in divine union together. They found each other and they become one. Below that is like orgies and people having sex. And, that it's this representation of the fact that go and do that, go and play. But until you actually reach the space of divine union where two souls come together in that union, you're not going to experience like that open consciousness and like that enlightened love. Enlightenment is what they say happens when you experience pure divine union. You're not going to experience enlightenment if you've got 14 dicks lined up in the next 20 days. That if you're in a cuddle puddle at a temple night taking MDMA and everyone ends up with fucking syphilis. Well, again, generalizing.
Oh, I know these people. It is like, yes, the cuddle puddles of MDMA in spiritual practices, and like again, and then I'll speak to those people, and I can't find a partner. Like, well, it's it's like I get it, but have a look at your actions.
Yeah,
you and it's this again, like we said, is that they'll put out, but this is my preference. I want to be free and all that kind of stuff, right? And this is what they present on the outside, but behind the scenes, secretly, they're ringing you and I and going, I'm desperate for a monogamous relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Or one party of the marriage is not on board, and then they're finding themselves, if I want to stay in this marriage, I have to go out and do this too to please my partner, or I have to let them go out and be free and have sex with other people in order to keep them. Like, I can't even begin to imagine what it'd be like to be in a long-term relationship and my partner come to me and say, well, I do want to be with you and I love you, but I actually just want to get railed. And, I can't even imagine. I've seen it implode. I've seen it, in friendship circles and stuff like that. And I'm like, oh God,
but that's what happens a lot of the time, is that you're spot on the case right there, is it'll be one partner wants it and the other person goes along to try and keep in. I have to keep that partner, so I'll go along with it.
Yeah.
Being completely unhappy with the fact that this is what's happening. Yeah. And all going, hey, happy, pixies and rainbows and shit.
Yeah.
But again, it's just
that. I saw that, like I witnessed that, and that made me more monogamous than ever. I was like, okay, all right, I've seen what the poly space can do. And not only that, like I have heard stories from friends and like close friends involved going to these temple nights and then sexual assault happening on other friends because they have crossed boundaries, because they thought, oh, well, we're friends here. Oh, your partner's here. It's fine. There's lack of boundaries, or there's assumptions that get made. Like, it is messy. I'm like, I don't have time for that shit in my life. Like,
well, it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's look, it's sort of back to you kind of thing, is that it takes guts and courage to want to move forward in a relationship going forward. But it does take, a serious look at yourself as to why you actually instigated those decisions and what led up to those decisions. And that's the first part. And if you can be honest and open with that and learn about communication and, not normal communication that most of the world works in, it's about communicating effectively without, when you do this, you make me feel blah, which is the standard.
Obviously reading your partner as well. Like, get to know your partner, ask your partner questions. Like, you can't just expect your partner to be like, oh, this and this and this and this. It's like, no, ask them questions. Be curious. Make them feel.
Understand why they make their certain decisions. Understand their history.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gobsmacked with the amount of people in long-term relationships who don't know their partner's traumatic history, don't know how they were brought up, don't know their their mum and dad, the family dynamics. They don't know from partners or their insecurities, belief systems, their identity, what's been driven from that. They got no clue, right? So it's near impossible to have an effective relationship in any way possible if you do not understand your partner and the reasons why they make the choices in their life and why they chose you as well.
Yeah.
Because if you can understand that, you can understand, you can then sit there and go, wow, I'm not going to say that because that's completely triggering to this person. Or I can completely understand why they did this because this is from 25 years ago and they made their decision because this was based in safety. I can see the pattern. This is not her fault or his fault.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah.
You know, I'm bringing awareness to that now, which they can go and deal with. But it just, there's none of this puts and forwards of, no one's doing this in the relationship. It's about, here's the whole picture. This is why this person does this. Then you have empathy. Then you have compassion.
Yeah.
And then you have accountability, responsibility, action, and then you have intuition.
Exactly. And then you have great orgasms. Like, because
great time.
We got there.
Yeah.
We did the thing.
Yeah. And no one's fixing anyone, right? You're just revealing, here's all the, I have this great saying, which I say to most of my clients is like, all we're really doing, right? Imagine that you're a light and you've got a lampshade on it. All we're doing is taking the lampshade off. The light was always there, right? The light never goes away. We just keep putting lampshades on top of the light to diminish who we really are. And as soon as you remove the lampshade, here's your true self, right? You never have to go anywhere. You don't have to do anything. There's no practice. There's no meditation. There's no yoga. There's no therapy. There's none of that shit, right? It's just revealing your true self, which was always there. Take the fucking lampshade off.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. I mean, there's those modalities that can help you realize that you can take the lampshade off. But that's what they're there for, But at the end of the day, you're exactly right. Like, we're all just light with shades, and I love lamp. Do you think that all relationships should be forever?
No. No. I think once relationships, and there's different ages as well too. Like it's very different these days to when, my parents grew up and before that you were married at 17 and you stayed together for the rest of your life.
Whether you like it. Exactly.
We liked it or not, right? And then, we've seen the trauma that creates in a lot of ways, but then we got too far the other way where, relationships are completely disposable these days and no one stays together for any reason because it's all much too hard work. I just check in, check out, right?
Yeah.
Or check out, check in someone else. I think it depends. I'm a different cat, right? And I have the way that I do it, and I see people who want to do it my way. I think that, when you're younger, you sort of experiment a bit, you're in and out of stuff, you don't know yourself fully and all that kind of stuff. And until you actually, late 20s, early 30s, you start to realize, I want something different. So I think it's very hard these days to be, young in your 20s, 21, 22, and thinking that this kind of person I'm going to marry and be with for the rest of my life, because you change so much between those ages and you grow a hell of a lot. And not thinking back to me at 21 now, I've got no idea what I was doing, right? And then to sit in that space and go, be married, be committed, and, get up and grow a family, like it would have been a complete disaster.
Yeah, I would have been the same too. I didn't even know who I was then. I was coming out of a 5-year relationship at 21. And then realizing, like, I didn't even know how to be on my own. I'm in like my prime years, and that's when I'm uphill, downhill, whichever way you want to
and you look at now, like, there's only one woman for me. We'll be together till the end, right?
Yeah.
But that's I'm 50, right? I have a whole different outlook. I know myself, so much better. Like, I started my journey when I was in my early 20s, to discover myself and, this world, of whatever we want to call it, personal development, spiritual, whatever it is, right? And in that journey, you become a different person and you become so much, my values as a 21-year-old, 22-year-old are not what my values are now either, right? And so I think you change so much, it's very, very hard to actually have one partner for life. But I do think there is a time in your life where it actually does become, for certain people, this is end game. This is where I want
Yeah.
to finish it.
Yeah. What?
But that's me. That's my perspective, and it's not always the right way. Some people tend to do better with, shorter, relationships because they tend to just grow more, and that's what they do, and they can exit in and exit out, in a very amicable way. There's many, many ways you can do it. I'm not trying to project who I am as a person, my values, and how I see things as to this is the only way it should be done, because it's not.
Yeah. You and I are very different. Like, for example, like I'm 38. I've got an 8 and a 10-year-old. For me, like, all I want to do is settle down and have a family. Do you know what I mean? Like, I love, being in that family environment where I feel like I've got a teammate, I've got a partner, we're doing life together. But it's a very different dynamic because I'm not with my children's father by my own choice. And so for a man to step into that space and essentially hold that role, it's like, well, I'm a buy one, get two free package deal.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to be with me and reap all of the benefits that it is and all the challenges and all the things that come with me, okay, great. But you've also got to realize that it's a different dynamic. And especially like, there's men out there that, they've got no problems, dating women that have got children.
Yeah.
But then it comes down to, well, hang on a second, who am I supporting here as well? Who's supporting who, and who's taking on the father role, and is there a father involved? Is there a stepmother involved? Who's being the mother here? Like, who's doing this? Like, things at times are changing. You're in a very traditional relationship yourself, the man, the woman, the kids that you had together. If there was a spectrum of this, I'm on the other end of the spectrum, which is great because you and I have, a polar
That's the point of it.
version.
That's
Exactly.
the whole point of this. Yeah.
Exactly, because your way absolutely works for you. And, I've still, in my late 30s, I'm still, figuring out what my life looks like, which is amazing.
I'm still into it.
Exactly, right? But like, it's a very different dynamic. So, as much as I can say, I want the family as such, the unity of the family, and the white picket fence. Do you know what I mean? Like, all of that kind of stuff. I have to go, well, hang on a second. There's multiple people involved making decisions here as well. And that's got to be taken into all parties. It's not just me going, oh yeah, I'm finding someone and having kids. I'm at the age now where I'm like, well, no, I'm not actually having any more kids. So I have to take into consideration that's what's real for me. So you do get to assess it along the way. And also, like, I've always lacked a belief in marriage. Lacked a belief that, being bound to a man is something that I would choose, or that getting the government involved and making, like, signing a marriage certificate and making legal. I'm like, but why? And what vows do I have to say in front of all these people in a white dress that is the done thing? Because what if it does change, And so I've questioned all of that. Like, you're married, you're doing the thing, you've got that, but we've got a spectrum here of types of relationships. And I love that you and I are on opposite ends. So you can be like, this is how I do it. I'll be like, I'm over here, just like,
and that's the point of this, right? This is the great thing about why we sort of come together on this thing, is because we are poles apart in long. We talked about the other week, about you and Cass do, about the writing diaries to each other.
Yeah.
There's no fucking chance I'm doing that shit. Right? But I love it. It's great. It's fantastic. But it's just not me, right? That's not me.
You guys live in the same house. You guys can leave each other a post-it note if you're going out to the shops. How you going to get some bread? Yeah. Put the fucking toilet seat down and make me come after you again. Whereas I'm like pouring my heart out, saying like, I'm up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep because I'm thinking about you.
That's the point of it, is that, you can have absolute differences, because relationships, there's not a script.
No, there's not.
Here's the one way to do it. Here's the book. And if you follow this book, you'll be happy. It's like, no, they are of your own creation, and you make it what you want to make it, right?
Exactly.
Like I down here, like, I take the girls to football. We're Richmond supporters. We take them to football every weekend. You might go, Greg, I couldn't think of anything fucking worse than that.
Greg, I couldn't think of anything fucking worse than that.
Like, seriously? It's fucking shit. Right? Here's the thing: we're giving everyone a different perspective from different angles, and it's really we're trying to go that even though there are some very basic things like communication, which is universal in that space, what entails in that space is very, very up to the people that which you can create yourself. That's why we're showing different aspects of it.
Exactly. And what we teach here is the foundations, because it's not like I love that we get to share our personal stories, but we work in this space too. Like people pay us a lot of money to come into our space for us to teach them and coach them and mentor them through this as well. Like we see it all the time. I've had conversations today, even with someone, with, all different aspects of what's going on in their relationship. I've got another couple that I'm working with as well. I've got a friend who's been going through a divorce and has found out all of these things. And like, there's just so much. Yeah. There's so much to it. There's no such thing as a perfect relationship, but ultimately it's between you and your partner, and you get to decide what that looks like for you. But decide through open communication, decide through love, decide through empathy, decide through intuition. Decide through playfulness and passion. Like, it's like people forgot how to play.
Because they've got agendas. They've got agendas to play, right? They got, this person did this, so I'm going to withhold this or do this or do that. Because, and I want to make this very, very clear for people, is that fixing a relationship is not hard. It is seriously not hard to fix a relationship. It's intent. That's all it is. If you have the intention, because it's not complicated. It's basic communication. Everything else falls from communication. And communication is communication with yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Because you understand your communication with yourself, how your self-talk is, your self-identity, who you believe yourself to be. You fix that, become, get rid of all that shit, become your ideal self, step into that place. Everything else changes from that place. You don't have to fix the other person. You don't have to do anything about the other person.
No.
The relationship changes because you're already in a higher version of that. And what goes wrong, that's what I want to say to people, what goes wrong with a lot of relationship coaching in there is they come in and say, give us a list of problems. And you'll have your 15 lists of problems. And they go, well, let's try and fix this one and fix this one and fix this one. And I'll keep telling people till they come home, who I speak to, is that if you keep talking about problems and you keep trying to fix problems, where do you stay?
You'll stay circulating in your fucking problems. I mean,
Continually. Yeah, but people do it, and that's what they will continue to do that and do that. Relationship, fixing a relationship is so easy. What's your highest version of you? What's your highest version of relationship? Go and fucking act it.
Yeah,
that's it. Just
and if you need, like, take intentional time out. Take time. Go away to an Airbnb for 3 nights on your own. Like, go and just sit with yourself without your fucking phone on. Just go and be with your thoughts, get to know who you are, take time out, go on holidays on your own, go and meditate, go and walk through a fucking field of daisies if you need to, whatever it is that you can find yourself. Just like recalibrate, have a really strong relationship with yourself, because it's so often we can lose ourselves in relationships because we're so like working on it and fixing it. But like, it's not all about the work either. Don't forget to play. Like, don't forget to create space for fun. And be open to, like, just be spontaneous in different things. Like, just surprise the other person.
Because we're so stressed out, right? We're so stressed out because we're stressed from work. Yeah. We're stressed because we're trying to, whatever financial material, whatever thing we're trying to chase, right? We're stressed because of the kids. We're stressed because of this. We're stressed because of that, right? One thing to kill a relationship, stress.
Because it's killing ourselves within. It's because you lack your own vitality when you're stressed. You are putting out that spark that's inside of you that's like barely an ember glowing.
But what we'll do is we'll keep chasing the job career. We'll keep chasing the career development, the higher job pay, because thinking that this higher job or this extra income will fix the problem because it'll give us, no. Right, it's just going to create more problems.
It might band-aid, or it might, like, ease the load a little bit for some people, but it's not going to take anything away and fix it. Like, that's all the inside job.
Yeah, and it's the first place to an affair is the disconnection, the stress and the disconnection and lack of communication. And learning to communicate is an art form. So when we say before that relationships are easy to fix, they are in theory. The hard part is learning to communicate, which is like learning Chinese, French, and Italian all at once, right? Because it's people do not know how to do that. And even because when we communicate natively, and one of the, and again, arguments in relationships aren't bad. Healthy relationships have arguments, we all do have them, but it's the way you argue.
Yes. Yeah. It's how you come through that. It's who you choose to be through that. And like one of the things, you're going to love this. When I was doing more of my tantra training a few weeks ago when I was over in Perth, and Cass came to join us for one of the sessions, we're doing a chakra balancing massage. It was lovely. And one of the ways in which he was doing it on me, and so he was facilitating the session on me, and you have to, like, when you balance all the chakras, you then the person receiving says, like, I'm feeling really drawn to you coming back to this section, and mine was my heart. And then you have to say words about what's alive for you. And for me, it was my heart, and my words were stay open. And so what happens is the person facilitating has to whisper in your ear as they're moving energy around your body. So he's like, stay open. And that was going all through my body. Because what I found myself doing is through the challenges that I was having, or that we were having, is that I wanted to close. I wanted to close myself off. I wanted to shut down. I wanted to withdraw, which is so normal that we do. When there's any sort of conflict or disharmony in the space of our relationships, we want to withdraw. And so my reminder for that is my heart was saying, no, stay open. Like, the challenging part is showing up and staying open and being vulnerable and forgiving and talking and owning your own shit, owning your own part in conflict, all of that. But you've got to keep your heart open. It's so easy to turn around and go, no, you get none of me. No, I'm done.
Yeah.
No, I'm not going to talk about my feelings. No, none of that.
What's our history on conflict?
What's our history on conflict?
Yeah, usually it's very bad. Like, why we try to avoid it, right? Because every time we see something, it brings up that trauma again about our safety's gone, someone's going to leave us, whatever the story is from our past, is that, so we avoid conflict at the best place. You look at in the workplaces, most people in workplaces won't even have conflict with their staff, let alone their partner, right? And so we're a generation or a species of avoiders as well too.
Absolutely. But not only that, like, I grew up, like, if we got hit with something from the second drawer, a wooden spoon or something, because conflict then ultimately led to abuse.
Yeah.
I'll give you something to fight about,
Well, it's like I said, it's conflict will lead to I'm unlovable.
Exactly. I was coaching a man today, and we were getting to the root cause so we could reconstruct a belief system. And he truly believed that he was wrong every time he wanted to speak up. So what did he do? Not ever speak up.
Not speak up. Yeah.
Too scared to talk about things. Can't ask for what he wants in the workplace, in his relationships, and now it's causing conflict, because when he does, it's like he's like a chihuahua.
Yeah.
And then it's like, oh, I shouldn't have done that,
And then understand communication is not communication is tonality. Communication is body language. Communication is visual, how you look, everything like that. That's why when people read emails, it's like, oh shit, I've misinterpreted that any which way because of myself. But it's that space where you can sit in there and the way that you're actually speaking, really does contribute to the way that the message is received as well too, right? So
hugely,
communication is hugely, hugely important to successful relationships. It is the either success or the killer of relationships, all 100%, right? Take this to the grave. 100% is either will work or won't work.
Yeah, exactly that.
No other. It's not about money. It's not about affairs. It's not about this. It's like that. Communication.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, asking the question, do you want this? What are you willing to do to work towards what you do want? The simple, the choice point towards and away from motivation. Are you moving towards what you want, or are you trying to get away from what you don't want?
Right.
Is it too painful that you're trying to avoid something, or are you moving towards pleasure? Like, that's how it works.
We did miss one question. Some of the signs someone's having an affair.
Oh, yes. Wow, one tangent.
Back an hour ago, right? So some of the...
Thanks.
Because one of the things is if I'm working with somebody, it's everyone's passwords are open, right? Everyone has access to everything, right? It's complete trust. that's one of the rules I have. If someone has had an affair, it's like, right, passwords are shared
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
Everything's like, because I heard this. You may have seen it on whichever podcast we're talking about beforehand. Is that one of the big precursors to people finding out how to have affairs these days is everything's linked, and people the kids look on the stuff and it pops up as like on their
Oh,
accounts, right?
yeah, iCloud. Thank you. I wonder how many. I'd love to know the statistics on how many people have been exposed through iCloud. Do you remember that? I don't know if you watched that thing on Netflix. There was a series on Ashley Madison. Did you watch that? That was
No, I didn't watch that.
fascinating.
Yeah.
If it's still on Netflix, go and watch it. Anyone listening, if it's still on Netflix, go and watch the fallout of Ashley Madison. Fuck, that was amazing. There was so many lawsuits. There was so many people that were going to pay ridiculous amounts of money to have their stuff hidden. That was amazing, that documentary.
Yeah.
It was so good because that was literally Ashley Madison was a website designed for people to have affairs. And they promised them that all of their details were completely hidden. And then they got hacked because they told everyone, oh, yeah, we've got the best security available. Yes, when lockdown like Fort Knox, like your secret's safe with us. They get hacked. They're held for ransom. They don't pay their $20 million ransom or whatever it was. And then like everyone's stuff was
out.
Yeah. So I'm so curious, like what, like the statistics on what like Google and iCloud have had on relationships, because people have been busted that way, or like opening Messenger on other things, and
it's very easy. Like if you behavioural changes, like if someone all of a sudden goes like that and turns 180, there's something going on. They're secretive. They will hide phones. They will, some people have a second phone or something like that. Whatever, they will, work meetings late at night and stuff like that, or they've had to book travel somewhere for work and they're actually away. I don't know.
The nanny, there's stories of nannies. I'm on some of those Facebook groups. I have to unfollow them because it's all just, sorry, but it's a whole lot of bitches whinging about all the things, right? But I find it, it's great to learn where people are at that I don't know about, because I'm like, okay, this is where the people are at kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I see it so much. A lot of FIFO workers are just renowned for it. They're cashed up. They've got call girls coming in, like all sorts of different things. Like I guess lucky for me, not that I would ever think that I would be cheated on in where I'm at right now, but I'm intuitive as fuck. Like you couldn't get a fart past me.
But that's the thing, is that the behavior change is the big one. Like if something's gone from all of a sudden being really good to secretive and bad, and connections happen and intimacy's dropped off and sex has dropped off. There's very, very telltale signs that people are doing something different.
I had an ex when I was about 24, 25, so going back like 13 years ago, and that was the last time I got cheated on. And I knew that something was wrong, and I confronted him. And then he denied. And I knew her, and she knew me, and she knew that we were in a happy relationship. And then the thing that broke, like the straw that broke the camel's back, is this was when iPhones just came out, and he just got an iPhone, and we were sitting next to each other on the couch. We'd like worked through things. We're sitting next to each other on the couch, and I was showing him, he was holding his phone, and I was showing him how to do things. Next thing, a message pops up from her, "Good night, my sexy something," and like a love heart thing. I'm like, the fuck was that? And he's like, oh, I have got no idea. She just sends that randomly occasionally. I'm like, I'm not fucking shit. So I confronted her, and I nearly decked her at the Gold Coast, but I didn't.
That's why I say, like, most of the people sort of that I work with, it's open source at home, completely open source. Here's my password, and you can look at any time you want to.
Exactly.
Go for it. Yeah. Right. And people can tell if you're genuine about that as well too. It's like, here, go for it, And in that space, like if you've got a partner who trusts, they're never going to go look anyway, right? But it's just that there's that thing that you have so much confidence in yourself to say, go for it.
Exactly.
You'll have nothing
exactly. The only reason, like, I would say to my partner, I'd be like, go through my phone at any time. But I've also got like private confidential things from clients on there. So I'm like, well, actually, you can't be going through my phone because there's like, signed privacy agreements on here. Yeah, like I've got no issues. Do you know what I mean? But that's because I'm not an active cheater at all. And I don't believe that I would ever get to a point where I would choose that as opposed to a conversation to be like, okay, this is how I'm feeling or this is where I'm at kind of thing, But
so how do you deal with somebody who's the cheatee? How do you deal with that kind of emotion that you've come home and found out that your boyfriend, partner, girlfriend, whatever, has been sleeping with somebody else? How do you actually, let's not call it just, psychological cheating where it's been, backwards and forwards. This has been a physical, intimate, sexual connection. How do you help people deal with the initial shock and the rejection, the shame, the guilt, the embarrassment?
You help them
all
put
the
it
above.
on the lawn and put a fucking match to it. That was just me. Hang on.
Step one, put it in the light.
Because I say not as I do. Look, like it really requires, holding space for someone to feel all of the things because every stage of, grief is going to come up through this as well. Everything's going to come up through this. Their worthlessness is they're going to find ways in which that it was their fault and that they're worthless in this, that they did something wrong, that they're going to be assessing every part of themselves so that they can take the fall for it, essentially, to be like, I need to find the reason why. And when you can find it within yourself, it's not the most supportive thing. But hey, guess what? If you want to make yourself right, you're going to be okay because we code being right as being safe, and safety is survival. So if we can be right about something, our subconscious says, hey, I'm going to survive this, so we're scrambling for proof. And it's like in every situation, you generally 9 times out of 10, unless you're a narcissist, you're blaming yourself, for the fall down of something.
Because it can be quite scary because you've got your whole lifestyle about to come falling down, or everything you've worked so hard for together is about to implode.
To be true, everything that you potentially stood up in front of your friends and family and made a vow about.
Yeah.
Generally when people take their vows, it's because they want to have a commitment that says, hey, no matter what happens, we're not going to fuck this up. Well, we're going to get it wrong sometimes, but we're not going to fuck this up. Like, we've got each other in this, and then when that vow's broken, it's like, okay, well, what else was a lie? And then they start going, well, my whole life was a lie. Like, it was a reason. There must be something wrong with me. Is it this? Were they skinnier? Were they prettier? Were they richer? Did he have bigger biceps? Did he have a bigger dick? Could he perform longer? Like, whatever the story is, we're going to go and find what the belief is that we have about ourselves before we go find it about them. So to support someone going through, like for me, I wasn't fit enough because like the girl that she was, sorry, but she was fucking feral. I'm like, you could have go and pick someone pretty. If you're going to cheat on me, make sure they're hotter than me, right? Like,
because we're fine. Cass is fine with Ryan Gosling. We know that, right? That's
Ryan Reynolds, Ryan Gosling. When did we get with Ryan Reynolds on that day?
The Ryans, right?
We can have 2 Ryans, absolutely. Yeah.
But again, like I find in that situation, it's vital that you do seek some kind of professional help.
Well, you need professional help.
The worst person people you can get advice from is your friends and family.
Yeah, no, they are so biased to you.
They will not do you any good.
No, they're the ones that are going to help you get his stuff out or her stuff onto the lawn, match to it, and then you all end up in court together.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, professional help. Like, sure, have your fucking breakdown, have your Carly Ma moment, like have you throw your toys out of the cot, kick and stream. Yes, it's a shitty situation. Yes, there's going to be fucking trauma here. Yes, it's going to take some time to get through this. Yes, it's going to feel like shit. Also, guess what? You're going to come out the other side of it as well.
I've got a client that this happened to, right? And she is so thankful for the affair now.
I've heard that too.
And they're not together. But it made her deal with her shit.
Yes.
It made her deal with everything that she's like, at the time, I was fucking ropeable. I was going to literally slice it off. Right.
Mhm.
That's how bad she was. It's like
Yeah.
betrayal, the embarrassment, all that kind of stuff. And what it made her do was and she stepped back and she was getting all the advice from the friends and families and he's an asshole and all that kind of stuff. How dare they do this to you? What a prick. She was just lucky that one friend of hers said, go and do this. And luckily she did, because it was like the most amazing turning point of her life, because she would have taken all that trauma into the next relationship plus the betrayal and created the same thing again, right?
Yeah.
She's so thankful to that guy for having the affair, because it was the biggest wake-up call she ever had.
Yeah, massively. Like I highly recommend to people, like, get past like that first stingy space, like get past those first stages of grief, then go do your Eat, Pray, Love tour, or go to Peru, or go to fucking Italy and meet some, hot spunk over there. Do you know what I mean? Like go and travel, go and see the world, go out and just do cool shit with your life, shave your head, like do the things that are just so wildly out of character for you to, like, go fucking walk the Camino. I know someone in the space that's recently done the Camino after, going through exactly what we said, like a cheating relationship, cheating husband. My God, you can just see the glow in her now because she's actually thriving because she found herself.
Yeah.
Because and it happens. Like, honestly, I truly believe it's an opportunity for a new lease on life. It's a new direction. It's a circuit breaker that you never knew that you needed.
And this is why it's a very grey area, is that it's very easy to jump to the conclusion the affairs are bad, and it's like, oh God, it's so grey. Like, we're very just black and white about what is. There's so many cases of something happening where it's liberated the person from their shitty life.
Yeah.
And then life would not be the way it is unless that thing happened. And, sometimes, like I said, spiritually it's called in.
Yeah.
Spiritually it's going, you're just fucking around right now.
The soul contract, if you want to believe it, is, predetermined, that says that this is going to happen and this is going to happen in order for the soul's evolution, if you choose to believe that, but you get to, honestly, it's an invitation to go and find yourself, because if life has been stagnant and you've been stuck, maybe this is, I'm sorry, but exactly what you need, because there are ridiculously good looking men named Carlos in Italy that will help you sort your fucking problems out.
Oh, Carlos.
Oh, Carlos. I didn't even know a Carlos, and then let that be known.
Isn't Carlos Spanish?
Italy. No, that could be. I don't know. I should know. Luigi
in Italy.
Imagine, like, I was going to say, being on top of someone screaming the name Luigi.
It's Spartacus or something. Marcus.
That's where my brain went. I don't know. It's where I go. Marcus. Luigi.
But like, it's, you can either be a victim of life, or you can be one that has, complete creation, because you are the creator of it. And that's the thing, is that the affair has happened.
Yeah.
You're in your creation. It hasn't happened to you. You've created it, and empower yourself from that moment. You can either play the victim card and keep, pushing that little violin the rest of your life, if someone's done this to me, and blame everybody else for my shitty life because this happened. And look, let me precursor this, right? Like Jez before, we're taking certain generic, certain things here. We're not talking about the guy who's had an affair, who's got, 2 kids at home, whose wife will be financially ruined by the fact of, that thing happening. There is some cases here that, definitely require absolute, real professional help, because that's another, complete, there's always things there that,
there's always caveats to what we say. There's always going to be a caveat to what we say. We speak very generally here. We speak very open, very bluntly, very opinionatedly at the best of times.
Yes, correct. Yeah, but even for those people, there's a way out, because some people stay in a relationship, especially still females these days, because they're tied there because of the financial reasons, right? And if they leave or take their kids and leave, then sometimes they're so much more financially worse off, and that so there's always some reasons that are sort of off to the side that need some really intricate kind of help, and that would be absolute professional help in that space. So
yeah, and there is so much. I feel like there is so much support out there. There's so much more support as well. Like, especially if there's DV involved, there's DV Connect, and there's a lot of these services. There's actually, you've got a guy that that supports women in DV by, having
DV safe phone.
Yeah. So like, there's definitely, support out there. Where, like we said, we speak very generalized. We're not talking about, domestic violence situations here where it's, it's an unsafe environment and there's, trauma and abuse and all that kind of stuff like that. That's a very different conversation. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is probably the tip of the iceberg with this. There's probably a lot more stuff to come out with this. Because it's not, everyone thinks it's black or white. Everyone thinks it's just this bad girl, bad guy, good girl, bad guy. There's a perpetrator, a victim. Everyone thinks that, but it's not.
No.
And that might be hard for people to answer. We might get shouted down on Instagram about, you guys are fuckwits, you got no idea what you're talking about. How dare you talk about this?
We haven't seen any of those yet. We haven't had them on Instagram. I mean, I manage Instagram, and so far I haven't been called a fuckwit that I've noticed.
Yeah. But
you
it's
called
just
yourself a dickhead, and I put that in the snippet, but that's
But it takes, those who do make something of it take radical accountability in that space about how did I help contribute to this beyond just what happens. It's the holistic picture, and that's courageous. Some people can do it, some people can't.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the end of the day, just go on, eat, play, pray, love tour around Italy. I think that's where we've landed through all of it.
Yeah, and sleep with Carlos.
Go fuck Carlos.
Then his brother Luigi.
Press on and go fuck Luigi. How do we end up? I love that.
Anyway, Jen, we've got, this is the second last one for the year.
It is. Taking a break for a couple of months. We got some exciting stuff for next year. Very exciting stuff, actually.
Well, I think, one of the basic things is I think Jen and I are going to put together something probably rather special around communication and, intimacy in that space. You probably can't hire us at the moment. We're probably online group kind of thing in the short term. Because what we do is obviously very, very highly sought after and highly specialized. Most Jen and I just do one-on-one consultations because the nature of the work we do, group stuff doesn't tend to work. You don't get the depth you need out of sitting in a group of 20 people trying to go deep into the reasons why your husband slept around with your best friends kind of shit, right? This is really deep, intimate stuff. So, we try to, throw some things around what we could do in a group situation.
Yeah. In saying that, part of my coaching practice that I have, I will have some stuff up and running for next year, which will be self-pay stuff as well, with the option for additional coaching as well with myself or other coaches. So that will be happening. We'll announce it on the show once we're back next year. But I've been, really workshopping. I'm like, what do people need that I can make accessible for them that's going to give them a real fucking, a proper experience for actual fucking transformation around here.
and you understand, like, what Jen does is what all the coaches do, they give you hours and hours and hours of stuff to learn. And then bonus material and more bonus material and more bonus material. It's like, just cut to the chase. Yeah. So, when she does launch that, guys, it is something to jump onto. Because I think you've seen, over the last, 3 months, 4 months we've been doing this. The level of...
We've been together 4 months, and we started just before Cass and I got together. So, look at us. Look at us.
Because it just said the way to do things, not like, just go and do shit, right? So so we'll have Jen stuff up next year as well to jump on that stuff, because it's definitely one you've seen from quality of the conversations. It's definitely worth it, and the expertise is absolutely there.
We're going to put our heads together. We're going to create some cool shit. We're going to get some more guests on the show next year as well. Like, we're going to have a big year. We might even up the amount of episodes that we do. We are going to also do an episode where we interview each other individually to get to know each other. We probably should have done that at the start.
And some live stuff.
Right? Yes, we're going to do live. We can actually have people call in. We can live stream. There's so many cool features that we can use here. And
live stream's great because the live stream is great because you get to see how people work just straight off the bat, right? And that's That's where the
nothing that we edit and there is nothing that we script. We literally have a 45-second conversation to say g'day before we hit record. We're like, how are you? Good. How's the week been? Amazing. How's the weather? Great. Hit record. Let's go. Like that is literally us. That is literally us. We barely even speak like outside of that to say what we're talking about. We have a we have the notes app that we want to talk about things in conversation, and we add things to that and we make notes in there and then we jump on and we're like, hey, what's up?
So works. Where can they find this, Jen?
Instagram, Intuition and Orgasm Podcast. Find us on Spotify. Find us on YouTube. You're on one of those listening to us right now. Leave us comments, reviews, share this around. Please message us, whether it's individually or whether it's on the show. We love your feedback. We love your questions. If you've got any questions for Brando, who was on the show last week, our amazing Italian stallion, male escort, companion, makes a hell of a lot of money listening to women and supporting women and valuing women and, having a good time along the way. There's a lot of people that have had a lot of questions about that. So send those through. We'll absolutely have him back on again next year. He'd love to come and join us again. He really enjoyed being on the show, which is amazing. So yeah, it's great that we can have these guests on. If there's any guests that you want us to have on the show, if you want a guest on the show for whatever reason, get in touch with us, talk to us. We don't bite. It's not hard anyway.
We don't bite. Not much.
No. We're good.
All right. Thanks, Jen.
See you next week.
Thanks, listeners. See you next week.
Bye. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. We hope you loved it. And the biggest compliment that you can give us is leaving a rating and review. If you would like to get in touch with us, please feel free to reach out via our Instagram page, Intuition and Orgasms Podcast. We will see you in the next episode.